Every new technology promises a clean break with the past. Crypto promised to end the age of middlemen. No banks, no gatekeepers, no trust required. And yet, if you follow the money, you keep running into the same old story. Leverage in the shadows, insiders calling the shots, and ordinary people discovering, again, that when the music stops, the chairs are already taken. New rails, old mistakes. So how did a technology built to eliminate trust recreate the very institutions it swore to replace? This is the Markets and Machines historian, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Today, we open the black box of crypto exchanges, how they rose, why they keep breaking, and what it says about the oldest rule in finance. When yield looks effortless, you're the product. Start with the first warning shot. The year is 2014. Bitcoin is still an idea with a price tag, and the world's largest exchange isn't a bank or a broker. It's a hobbyist's website that once sold trading cards. Mt. Gox implodes. Hundreds of thousands of coins vanish into a hole dug by sloppy code. Weak controls, and the kind of hubris that thrives in bull markets. If you squinted, you could pretend this was exotic, a crypto problem. But the lesson was older than ledgers. Decentralization doesn't help if you re-centralize at the front door. Put enough assets behind a single login screen and history will find a way in. Convenience concentrates risk. People don't want to manage keys. They want to manage an app. So they hand their sovereignty to a custodian and call it innovation. The tech changed. The incentives didn't. Fast forward, prices soar, exchanges multiply, and the industry invents its own Wall Street, only faster. Matching orders isn't enough. The house sells speed, then margin, then leverage, then earn. Assets customers deposit become chips the house counts as its own. They're lent, borrowed, and pledged again, rehypothecated, until no one can tell where your coin ends and someone else's liability begins. This is fractional reserve by another name, a maturity mismatch wearing a hoodie. Short-term promises backed by long-term bets. The pitch is always the same. Your coins are safe. Your yield is guaranteed. Trust the process. The result is always the same. When prices fall, everyone wants the same door at the same time, and the door is smaller than the crowd. It's musical chairs with better UI. If you were around for any banking panic, you already knew the tune. But the house doesn't only run the games. In crypto's gold rush, it often dealt the cards. Traditional markets separate functions for a reason. Broker, exchange, market maker, custodian. Separation is tedious. It's also protective. When one entity holds your assets, sets the rules, and trades against you, you're not in a market. You're in a maze. Crypto loved collapsing those walls. Vertical integration sounded efficient. In practice, it meant one set of hands on every lever, listing coins, making markets, funding traders, marking collateral. When liquidity was plentiful, the machine hummed. When volatility hit, the conflicts surfaced. Price discovery turned into price invention. Collateral turned into confidence theater. The ledger you couldn't see decided who survived. Then the spiral started. A so-called stablecoin broke its peg. An earn platform froze withdrawals. A flagship exchange, idol of the industry, revealed a balance sheet built on air and a hole measured in billions. The common thread wasn't code. It was opacity. Claims without proofs, audits without assets, proof of reserves that proved little, snapshots that never showed the debts, selfies that never admitted the shadows. When the tide went out, we didn't discover a flaw in blockchain. We discovered a flaw in human nature. Give us a shortcut and we'll take it. Give us 20% APY and we'll stop asking questions. History didn't repeat, it remembered. The South Sea bubble sold monopoly profits. 2008 sold IOA alchemy. This cycle sold riskless yield. Different costume, same plot. Why didn't the technology prevent this? Because code is honest. People aren't. Blockchains settle what's on-chain with machine precision, but most of the risk lived off-chain, in omnibus wallets, side agreements, and private ledgers. Exchanges became banks without calling themselves banks, and skipped the boring parts. Segregation of customer assets, capital cushions that hurt to hold, regulators asking dumb questions that matter. DeFi tried a different route. Don't trust, verify. Collateral on-chain, rules and code, liquidations automatic. It worked, until it didn't. Even in DeFi, the weakest link is the seam, the bridge, the oracles, the governance keys, the places where human promises wrap around digital certainty like tape around a leaking pipe. Attackers don't fight the math, they hunt the edges. When pipes leak, politicians arrive with buckets. In a world that moves at block speed, the law moves like molasses. Industries that grow faster than the rules choose their own referees. Licenses become marketing. Registered here quietly means untouchable there. The map turns into a moat. Exchanges parade compliance in good times, then discover footnotes in bad times. The public learns the difference between licensed and supervised, between proof of reserves and proof of solvency. Real oversight is dull and relentless. Audits that bite, capital you can't touch, and a sanctity of customer assets that is sacred. Crypto wanted speed. The old world demanded friction. In the gap between the two, money fell through. Not everyone lost. Crises always transfer wealth, from leveraged optimists to liquid pessimists, from diamond hands to bidders with dry powder. In every unwinding, the same figures emerge: distressed buyers with patience, market makers with cash, exchanges that survive by eating their rivals. This isn't conspiracy, it's policy. Backstops choose winners. Headlines pick villains. The order book records the truth. Forced sellers make great prices. It's a poker table where every player borrowed chips from the next. When one gets tapped on the shoulder, everyone reaches for their stack and discovers it was a spreadsheet all along. So what protects the individual in a system built like this? Start with the cliche that refuses to die because it refuses to be wrong. Not your keys, not your coins. Custody is convenience until it's confiscation by button. If an institution can freeze your funds with a toggle, you never owned those funds. You were allowed to view them. Avoid free lunches. Yield without transparent source is a tax on curiosity. If you can't map where return comes from, it comes from you. Study the balance sheet, not the banner ad. Assets are facts. Liabilities are promises. Solvency is the space between them. Today, not last quarter's PDF. Prefer transparent rails, on-chain settlement, separable custody, and auditable liabilities beat glossy dashboards. Don't confuse a Twitter thread with an attestation, or an attestation with an audit, or an audit with reality. Diversify your points of failure. One custodian, one chain, one bridge, one stablecoin, one mistake. Hold boring things. Liquidity is a virtue you only appreciate when you need it. In panics, cash and conviction outbid hashtags and hope. And assume the door is smaller than the crowd. If you can't exit within minutes under stress, you don't own an asset, you own a line. Now the uncomfortable truth, the one we prefer to leave off the landing page. We didn't recreate banks by accident. We recreated them because they solve human problems. Key management is hard. Cold storage is scary. Self-custody comes with responsibility no support desk can shoulder. Exchange is one because they packaged sovereignty into a login. They turned protocol risk into customer experience. And with that, we rebuilt the two pillars of old finance: leverage and opacity. Leverage because it amplifies dreams. Opacity because it hides nightmares until it can't. Decentralization isn't a switch you flip once. It's a spectrum you slide along every time you pick convenience over control. Every shortcut back toward ease is a step toward the same cliff. It's fine until it isn't. So where does that leave us? With a choice. If crypto is to keep its promise, exchanges must decide whether they are utilities or casinos and have the courage to be what they say. Utilities segregate customer assets, publish verifiable liabilities, and carry capital that hurts. They bind proof of reserves to proof of liabilities, tie attestations to on-chain addresses, and invite independent auditors who can't be fired for discovering problems. Utilities make bank-like promises and accept bank-like requirements. Casinos can exist too, honestly. Label the risks, price the leverage. Quit selling riskless yield like vitamins. Let adults decide what to gamble and make the house's edge explicit instead of implied. For users, the path forward is simpler and harder. Treat exchanges like airports, not homes. You pass through them, you don't live in them. Trade, withdraw, and secure your value where the rules are simple and the failure modes belong to you. Freedom isn't supposed to feel like customer support. It's supposed to feel like responsibility. The technology is ready for adulthood. The incentives aren't, yet. Build for brutal clarity. Design for visible failure. Expect no applause for saying no to easy money. You can draw a line from the earliest paper banks to the slickest crypto platform and watch the same gravity at work. Systems drift toward convenience until reality pulls them back. A ledger doesn't care about marketing. It cares about math. Over time, math wins. The only question is how much we burn before we let it. When a platform tells you your yield is guaranteed, ask by whom, against what collateral, and where you can see it without permission. When a stablecoin promises dollars without banks, follow the chain to the vault and verify the numbers aren't merely words in a document, but assets in places you can point to. When a proof of reserves shows a pile of tokens, demand the matching proof of who's owed what. Balance sheets are two-sided for a reason. One side flatters, the other side matters. Look closely at the collapses, and you'll notice their shape. They start with vision and end with velocity. They rely on speed to outrun scrutiny. Growth forgives everything until it forgives nothing. Along the way, the vocabulary of confidence takes over. We're backed, we're compliant, we're audited, we're liquid. Words become wrappers for risk, and risk becomes invisible until the line forms at the exit. In those moments, history's voice cuts through the noise. There isn't enough room for everyone. There never was. And And the system only works because most people never try to leave it once. That's not a crypto problem. That's a human one. It's tempting to declare the dream dead, to say the experiment failed because some builders chose the old tricks with new fonts. That would be easy and wrong. When the smoke cleared after earlier financial fires, some institutions rebuilt with thicker walls and clearer windows. The lesson wasn't money is bad. It was opacity is lethal. Crypto's own lesson is the same, sharpened by the power of public ledgers. The truth is on-chain. The risk is off-chain. And the exit is smaller than you think. We can either align the two, drag liabilities into the light, weld custody to cryptography, split the casino from the utility, or we can wait for the next cycle to do it for us, at a discount we won't enjoy. So take the long view. Exchanges are tools. Tools extend our reach and magnify our errors. If you treat them as permanent homes, you will eventually pay rent in a currency called dependence. If you treat them as transient gateways, you reduce your exposure to other people's promises dressed as pipelines. Hold assets you understand on rails. You can audit with risks you can accept. If that sounds unglamorous, good. Glamour is a warning label. In the meantime, don't let worship sneak in where caution belongs. Heroes are useful on magazine covers. They're fatal in risk management. If a platform needs a savior, its architecture already failed. If a business model depends on your silence, your questions are overdue. Ask them. Ask them when times are good, especially then. Ask for segregation. Ask for liabilities. Ask for live attestations. Ask what breaks if withdrawals double. Ask what's left if a single market maker disappears. The answers will either harden your trust or save your capital. Both outcomes are wins. We circle back to the opening promise. New tech, old mistakes. The irony is almost poetic. A movement built to minimize trust handed its keys to a handful of new kings, crowned by liquidity and speed. Some ruled wisely, some didn't. But crowns they were, and when the lights came on, the silhouettes were familiar. Concentrated power, borrowed time, and a ledger that could not be sweet-talked. None of that means the rails are rotten. It means our incentives were, and incentives can be fixed, with enough scar tissue and enough resolve to say no to designs that flatter and fail. If you needed a single rule to tattoo on your dashboard, here it is. When a system makes you feel smarter for not understanding it, you are the revenue line. Close the tab, find the pipes, follow the collateral. If you can't, step back. Enough people doing that, and the next wave of exchanges will be forced to grow up. Clear windows, thick walls, fire drills that work. That's how markets mature, not through slogans, but through structural honesty that survives stress. Crypto promised a world beyond trust. Instead, we trusted new kings with old crowns. We called them platforms, innovators, heroes. But when the lights came on, the truth was simple. The math didn't move, the collateral didn't exist, and the exit, as always, was smaller than the crowd. That's not a conspiracy, it's gravity. The lesson isn't to abandon the rails, it's to build them like bridges, not billboards. When politicians talk about protecting consumers and platforms talk about proof, remember what the last cycle taught us. The truth is on-chain, the risk is off-chain, and the exit is smaller than you think. New tech, old mistakes. Your job is to know the difference. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.